we are meeting as part of the Global Atomic Forum. I'm glad to welcome the heads of state and heads of international organizations here, and I look forward to having a joint substantive conversations on issues related to the present day as well as the tomorrow of nuclear energy. This dialogue is particularly important given that a growing number of countries and large companies view peaceful nuclear energy as the most important energy resource for long-term accelerated development. The general public is starting to view nuclear energy as an environmentally friendly technology in a consistent manner. It opens up enormous opportunities. It is evident that there are fundamental reasons that explain such a paradigm shift. And I am not just referring to the reliable solutions that underlie the cutting-edge nuclear energy units. There's another important thing. The thing is, we're entering into a new technological era, which is essentially different, because AI is becoming virtually ubiquitous. In order to process colossal volumes of data, we need significant energy resources. Thus, in the course of this decade alone, the electricity consumption by data centers will have more than tripled. And I would like to point out in that regard that Russia is already building such modular systems for processing data on the basis of our NPPs, because NPPs are the best tool that offers a consistent and permanent supply of electricity. There is another important factor that explains surge in interest in the nuclear power, and that is the high demand for the so-called green technologies, because they minimize the environmental as well as the climate footprint. And I would like to reiterate that NPPs are precisely that. They're a source of clean, low-carbon energy, because they are ahead of other energy sources in terms of ratio between their price, the environmental component, as well as the capability of providing a steady supply of electricity. As a result, by mid-century, if Mr. Gressy, I'm not mistaken, the IAEA forecasts that by the mid-century, the overall capacity of NPPs across the world may increase by more than 2.5%, rising to almost 1,000 gigawatts. And the growing demand for peaceful nuclear energy to a large extent will be accounted for by the countries of the global south and the global east that are improving their technological as well as industrial potential. The development aspirations and the use of peaceful nuclear energy is something that we support. And it gives me great pride to say that Russia is the only country in the world to possess competences along all the components of the technological chain in nuclear energy. And thanks to our security and safety as well as resilience to external influence, the Russian-designed NPPs enjoy the highest demand across the world. I will also add that we are also developing projects in small and modular reactors, both ground-based and floating NPPs. The head of Rosatom has just spoken about that, and very soon we will produce them on a commercial scale. The cornerstone of Russia's leadership is our principled approach. First and foremost, we ensure rigorous compliance with all the contractual obligations that we have assumed. We comply with all of our obligations regardless of the political circumstances. Second, we reject the so-called technological colonialism. That means that we do not make our partners dependent on the Russian technical solutions. Quite the contrary. We assist our partners in building their own sovereign national nuclear industry, including in terms of training professionals and building competencies and centers for such competencies. We are engaging local companies in an active fashion. We provide assistance in operating energy units, ensuring supplies of nuclear fuel and treatment of waste. Furthermore, we share our experience and knowledge in building other cutting-edge industries of the 21st century. I refer to nuclear medicine, digital systems, e-transport, as well as new materials. Hence, we assist our partners in securing a genuine development breakthrough, propelling their economies to a whole new level of efficiency, ensuring a higher standard of living for the citizens. All of that constitutes the important public and social dimension to our activities. It also serves as a visible testament to the fact that equal access to technology, including in peaceful nuclear energy, can ensure dynamic as well as fair and sustainable global development. Distinguished colleagues, we believe that the peaceful nuclear energy technologies constitute a foundation for broad-based international cooperation for bringing countries together. Russia is interested in fostering stable, long-term environment for projects in nuclear. Our country's absolute priority is ensuring nuclear security and safety for both nuclear installations and facilities, regardless of where they are located. Thus, it is important to further improve the security guidelines and reliability guidelines at every stage of nuclear cycle, starting from uranium extraction to operation of reactors to treatment of spent nuclear fuel and radioactive waste. And we need to regulate this field in such a way to strike the optimal balance between the development of peaceful nuclear energy and reinforcing the non-proliferation regime. Moving on, it is evident that the construction of NPPs requires significant funds, and that means that the risks and benefits have to be well balanced between the major participants of such projects. I refer to states, investors, and consumers. I believe we need to build modern funding models for NPP constructions. We need to engage international financial institutions as well as development banks in such projects. And I would like to add in that regard that at the beginning of this year, the NDB established by BRICS countries has reaffirmed its willingness to fund nuclear projects, and at the end of last year, at Russia's initiative, a new mechanism for coordinating BRICS countries was established, namely the BRICS Nuclear Energy Platform. The most important thing is to provide our NPPs with resources for decades to come. In order to use peaceful nuclear energy in the long run, we need more efficient technology based on completely new principles, and Russia is already working on such solutions. In the run-up to this session, colleagues and I, before we came to this room, we had a sit-down and we exchanged our opinions in an informal environment, and I would like to say that the OECD estimates that under the optimistic scenario, all the uranium resources will have been completely exhausted by 2090. That is around 8 million tons of uranium. But in practical terms, it can happen as soon as 2060. So very soon, right in front of us, this can happen. Because the thing is, 1/4 of uranium deposits is accounted for by deposits of metals where uranium is but an associated component. And that is where I'm moving on to. This is the most important thing. By 2030, as soon as 2030, in Tomsk region in Russia, we plan to launch the world's first nuclear power system with a closed nuclear fuel cycle. What does it signify? This is a revolutionary invention by Russian engineers and scientists. It means that almost all of the volume of fuel, 95% of spent nuclear fuel, will be reused multiple times in reactors. This mechanism will allow us to almost fully address the problem of the pile-up of radioactive waste. And most importantly, it'll help us address the issue of securing supplies of uranium. I would also like to say that the testing for all the materials that will be used for the closed nuclear cycle is scheduled to take place at the International Research Center, which is currently constructed in Ulyanovsk region. I would like to invite scientists from different countries to cooperate with us, because this is the advent of a new era. Dear friends, our meeting here, the Global Atomic Forum, is scheduled to take place because there are two important dates. We're celebrating first the 80th anniversary of the Russian nuclear industry, as well as the Nuclear Industry Workers' Day, which is celebrated annually in our country on September the 28th. And I'll remind you, we've just talked about that with colleagues, but I'd like to say that in a broader audience. The first decision happened on September the 28th, 1942, in the Soviet Union. Back then, the Great Patriotic War was in full swing. The outcome had not been certain yet. That was still the most dramatic stage of the Great Patriotic War because the Battle of Stalingrad was in full swing. It was still ongoing. And the State Defense Committee made a decision on starting working on uranium. And I would like to sincerely offer my congratulations to the Russian nuclear industry workers, scientists, and the veterans, as well as the guests of the forum, and on your behalf, the professionals from former USSR republics that are brought together by the traditions of the great Soviet Ministry of Medium Machine Building. These traditions have to be kept up. I would like to wish you every success for the benefit of the citizens of our countries and, without exaggeration, for the benefit of humanity at large. Thank you.